Today we're ranking the best CDM, central defensive midfielders on FC25. We do this series every single month, although we're getting towards the end of this month and this will probably continue on into the beginning of June, but we have done strikers, right wings, left wings, cams, centre mids already. Now we've got the CDMs, we've got the left back, right back, centre backs to go, maybe goalkeepers as well, and then of course we'll kind of reset it again in a few weeks time, start from the top with strikers, because of course we should have more players by then. But we are into the final week of TOTS. There's like ultimate TOTS to go, and then there's just some MLS cards and other around the world TOTS cards, I'm pretty sure. So as for most of the TOTS cards from the top 5 leagues, we've already got. So going into next promo, then of course there'll be more players to rank. Best in the game is the highest tier, S++, S+, S tier, then A++ at the bottom. Without further ado, lads, let's get into it. Do you want coins to be able to afford the best players on the game? Yeah. Head on over to u7buy.com for the cheapest, fastest, and most reliable coins available. U7buy is supported by some of the biggest content creators and also has the most positive reviews. Use my code Davis for 8% off at checkout and also enjoy up to 4 million free coins in bonuses. Once again, head on over to u7buy.com and use code Davis at checkout for 8% off your order. Links are in the description or the pinned comments down below. Also a disclaimer, there's about 45 CDMs here, so still a decent chunk of CDMs, but there are so many cards that are centre mids that can play as a CDM that we are not ranking. And the reason is we want to purely focus on CDMs today. If we were doing it with centre mids, we'd do a CDM and centre mid tier list combined. But if there's a centre mid that can play CDM not in this tier list video, go check out yesterday's centre mid video and there's an 80% chance that card will be there. The reason is, as I said, we just want to focus purely on players that probably without a shadow of a doubt or at a stretch are just as good as a CDM as they are a centre mid. A card like Vitinha, we didn't include him, so of course he's a centre mid, but he can also play as a deep lying playmaker CDM, but we did not include him because, you know, no anticipate with a technical press proven long ball, pinning to pass tiki taka. He's quite obviously as well, with him being 5'8", he's quite obviously wanting to be a little bit more of an advanced up in the pitch, like as a centre mid. You don't want to use him as a holding, and then as a deep lying playmaker, yeah, maybe. But I think with no, you know, with a playstyle plus here, he's just much better as a centre mid than a CDM, right? I'd say at a stretch we did include Joao Neves, who is also, I think, 5'7", 5'8", around that area. But with the extra playstyle plus, I just think that, yes, he's slightly better as a centre mid, but he's still a top tier DM, right? Whereas Vitinha, I'm not sure many people are buying this card with 80 physical to kind of use as a DM, if you get my gist. So it's purely trying to just focus on CDMs, right? Enough waffling, let's go. I mean, we may as well start with Joao Neves, right? We may as well start with him. Now, as a centre mid, yesterday we ranked him in the best in the game. And look, as a CDM, he is 5'9". I called him 5'7". He is 5'9", great composure, reactions. Now, he is missing an anticipate, which I think is really important, of course, for a CDM. But when you have a player with these playstyles, obviously, we're not using this card as a holding DM. He's definitely going to be your deep playing playmaker. Look, as a centre mid, he was best in the game. But as I said earlier, with a centre mid that can still play DM but still a great DM, I think that's the case for Joao Neves. And honestly, I still think he is at the absolute minimum an S++ tier CDM as a deep lying playmaker. So you'd want to be pairing this card with a taller holding DM. And when we go through every card as well, I mean, when we have a CDM, we either look for a holding or a deep playing playmaker, centre half, wide half, etc. Very selective player roles. So I'll go through them and I'll say I think this card is best used as a deep playing DM or a holding DM. In Joao Neves' case, it's quite obviously a deep playing playmaker DM. I've got him in the S++. I'm going to do 96 Beckenbauer in the S+ tier, and I'm going to do the 93 in the S tier. I think both of them are better as deep lying playmaker DMs rather than holding DMs. If you had to choose one to be a holding, it would be the 96 because of the anticipate, but with a long ball, etc. and intercept there, they both have a long ball. I think really, I mean, to be fair, a long ball from a holding role can be really nice, just as good as a deep lying, but I do think Beckenbauer is just more of a deep lying rather than a holding. I'm happy to have Rodri in the best in the game tier. I think team of the season, Declan Rice, is more S++. This Tanaka card, I feel like is closer to best in the game than the S++ tier, you know. It's a tricky one. So first of all, with Rodri, now I say outdated, he's a team of the year. They really shouldn't be outdated until like footies. He's not outdated, but he's just an older card, if you know what I mean. He's an older card, but I think with the body type of Rodri, Bruiser's a nice playstyle plus, tiki-taka pinged pass, definitely a deep lying playmaker. Declan Rice, now with Declan Rice, the reason he's not best in the game, I'm very confident with him in the S++, because I don't think he's best in the game, mainly due to the fact that with the body type of him, I'd quite like a holding if you were to use him as a deep lying, sure, but he doesn't have an anticipate plus, and also that dead ball playstyle plus essentially kind of works as free playstyle pluses. So if you took that dead ball away, then had just a press proven pinged and jockey, I think Rodri may be comparable stats wise, but those free playstyle pluses for Rodri I do prefer quite a lot more. Tanaka on the other hand, Tanaka's actually one that I'm kind of split about. Do I want to move up? If he was a top 5 league card, you just know he'd be at least 1.5 million coins without a doubt. Now he is 5'10" with the intercept plus and anticipate, a pinged pass. He's screaming out for a deep lying playmaker, and it's hard to say as a deep lying playmaker, guys. I really don't see this card as anything other than the best in the game for me, honestly. I like it a lot. I think he's got all of the key stats, if you will, to be one of the best CDM deep lying playmakers in the game. And as I said, if he was a different league or a top 5 league, you just know he'd be more expensive. I think you keep him on a controlled, put that anchor chemistry style on him, maybe a little bit of an overkill on the defending, to be fair, maybe an overkill on the defending, but he does get that +8 strength boost, which I think is quite important. So I've got Tanaka in the best in the game tier. Team of the season, Barella, I'm happy to have him in the S++ tier, as of course you guessed it, a deep lying playmaker. Scott McTominay, I think makes that jump into the best in the game. A low driven playstyle plus as a CDM is pretty utterly pointless, so I'm ignoring that playstyle plus, and we're looking at the intercept, the long ball, and the incisive. I think the incisive playstyle plus from deep can be quite nice as a holding, maybe preferably a deep lying so you could drift a little bit more forward and maybe send the winger, but you can do that with your DM, but usually more so you'll try to do that with your deep lying playmaker in, say, a 2 CDM formation. But the intercept plus is really nice for long ball. Look, when you're comparing to him to someone like Declan Rice, I would rather a McTominay than a Rice. I think he is good enough to be in the best in the game. I think mainly due to the fact he is 6'4" with an anticipate, a press proven there as well. He's got all of the green ticks, great composure, great reactions. Yeah, 6'4", holding CDM for me. I like it quite a lot. But yeah, something other than a low driven would have been awesome, but I still think it's enough to be in the best in the game tier. Now the Tottenham cards may be a little bit harder for me to rank as an Arsenal fan, but now for real, I'm going to have Archie Gray and Bentancur in the S++ tier, and I think both Basuma and Sa are more closer to the S+. Pedri is a deep lying playmaker. I've got him in the best in the game, guys. I actually have McAllister. You know what, we're talking about him, so we'll rank McAllister next. I've got McAllister in the S++. It may be underrated. He's only about, what, 60, 70,000 coins. Maybe a little bit of an underrated one because the other cards here are really expensive. But guys, here's just different gravy. It's someone that has used him for 200 games, and I've just replaced him with a Pedri who I got from my Foot Champs rewards, who I'm very, very happy with. Look, as a deep lying playmaker, Pedri I'd rank higher than McAllister. He's got the intercept, McAllister doesn't. He's got 5-star skills, whereas McAllister has the weak foot. It's up to you what you prefer in that deep lying playmaker role. For me, both of them are deep lying playmakers. And look, I think McAllister is extremely underrated. If you're on a little bit more of a budget, I think these free playstyle pluses are just, I mean, exquisite. That's the best word I can find. It is so good, man. It is so good. But pinged pass, the tiki-taka, the anticipate combination is beautiful. Pedri's almost got it, but he's got the intercept, tiki-taka, incisive instead of a pinged pass. But still, man, yeah, this McAllister card, if you guys are on a road to glory, you need 60k for a deep lying playmaker, trust me, try this McAllister card and you'll have some fun. Patrick Vieira as a holding CDM, there's really not going to be many better cards, and I'm happy to have 94 Ruud Gullit as a CDM also in the best in the game. Now, with Ruud Gullit, I started using him as a CDM deep lying playmaker, but I did apply the Anticipate Plus from the season pass onto him and moved him to holding, and he's just as good there as he was as a deep lying. In fact, I'll probably say I prefer him as a holding, but of course we added that extra Anticipate Plus. Now, we do not include evolutions in these rankings because that would just kind of muddle the whole concept of a tier list up, if you will. So we do not include cards with evolutions. I know there's like a max 92 evolution where you can, upgrade Locatelli, Andre Santos, Højbjerg, etc. This 90 Vieira, we are excluding them from these rankings, guys, because, by the time you're watching, it could be expired. You could have used it on someone else. It would just muddle it all up. So yeah, Gullit we're ranking as a holding DM without the Anticipate, but he's also just as good as a deep lying. So without the Anticipate playstyle plus, I think I'd maybe lean towards a deep lying playmaker DM, because he's not got the Anticipate full stop. But if you were to use him as a holding DM, that's when you'd want to get the Anticipate. And as I mentioned earlier with Joao Neves, I do think an Anticipate is pretty crucial. And yes, I know Gullit doesn't have one, so maybe a little bit contradictory on my part, but Gullit is Gullit, Joao Neves is Joao Neves. Gullit is just different and that step above. So even without the Anticipate, he's still just best in the game for me. Matuidi, best in the game as well. What a ridiculous card. If you guys have not seen this card, because it's a really rare card, 99 defending, 99 passing, he's got the Anticipate, Intercept plus, like a deep lying playmaker for me, to be honest. I'd rather him as a deep lying because he's 5'11". I'll say deep lying playmaker, perfect. I mean, he'd also do a job as a holding though, for sure. Team of the season, Gravenberg into the S++ tier. This Nuskin card I think is really underrated. She's only about 40,000 coins. I've got her in the S+. She is 5'8", so maybe you could lean towards a deep lying playmaker with her, but I actually wouldn't be opposed to a holding because of her Anticipate bruiser and a long ball from deep. But maybe because of a height, maybe because of her 5'8" height, you'd be kind of more persuaded to use her as a deep lying playmaker. Joshua Kimmich, he's either S++ or he's either S+. I think if I've got team of the season McAllister in the S++, I think Kimmich should have a really good shout to also be in the S++ tier. Fred, ooh, Fred's a tricky one. Fred is a tricky one. I think he's S++ as well, chat. I think he's S++ as well. 94 Chouamini. He's either S++ tier or he's either S+. Look, I do think he's only 240k and his stats may not be all that, but Chouamini's much more than his stats suggest. He can play as a holding plus or a deep lying plus with an Anticipate and a long ball, a block, intercept, jockey, bruiser. I think he'd be just as good in either role, but I think I'd lean towards a holding plus because he doesn't have a pinged or a tiki-taka or anything like that. And the long ball from deep is also really well, works really well in that holding position. So look, I think Chouamini is he S++ still though with all of the TOTS cards here? Maybe he's made that little leap down to the S+. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards the S+ rather than the S++. Ramirez, I've got S++. Some people may expect him to be best in the game, but no Anticipate, I believe. Look, still a really nice card. It's Ramirez. I think I was a little bit too harsh on Matthias, just throwing him in the S+. I think Matthias should honestly have a good shout for S++ tier as well, to be honest. As a deep lying playmaker, he's got the Anticipate, regular, and intercept, ping, pass, long ball. As a deep lying playmaker, you can't really ask for too much more. So I'd be happy to have Matthias in the S++ tier. Lisandro Martinez, I'm going to say S tier. I don't even think he's S+. I think he's more of an S tier type of card. Georgia Stanway is more S+ than S tier, but I don't quite think she's that jump into S++. Nice card, 4-star, 4-star. I think she could have they could have juiced her stats up a little bit more, some of her stats to more of a mid to higher 90s. But still, I think she's really nice. I'm going to have her in the S+ tier. Adam Wharton, is this going to be the cheapest card and the best in the game tier? Honestly, man, it's so tempting. He's at the absolute minimum in S++. This Wharton card, like, it feels unnatural. You've got a 1 million coin team of the year card, 700k, 700k, 700k. You've got some million coin cards here, multi-million coin cards, and then a 100,000 coin Adam Wharton SBC. Look, he's either best in the game or he's either S++. I do think he would be just closer to the category of players in the S++ tier, maybe lots of it to do with, animations, etc. But this card is still an absolutely ridiculous card. No one was expecting Palace to pull it off, and they only went and did it. I think the playstyle pluses are just perfect for Anticipate and Intercept combo with an Incisive can be really nice. A deep lying playmaker because of the Incisive maybe, but also I wouldn't be opposed. 6 foot flat, 99 composure is ridiculously nice as well. A priest proven there. I'm gonna keep him in the S++, but he honestly, like, I wouldn't be mad if you wanted to say he's best in the game, but I just think I would rather all of the cards in the best in the game before Wharton. But it is pretty bloody close. It is pretty bloody close. And for a 100,000 coin SBC, congratulations if you guys did get him done. 95 Thuram, I've got in the S+ tier. I'm using him in my cup squad right now. Decent card, nothing too special. Could have maybe juiced him up a bit more, and Anticipate Plus would have been very much appreciated. Zambo Anguissa, very similar boat to someone like Ferran. I'm going to say S plus tier. Petri as well. I think she's more of a deep lying playmaker than anything. Now, she is lucky. She's got the regular and Anticipate. And does she have a regular intercept as well? No, she doesn't. Just a regular Anticipate. And the pinged pass, for me, definitely a deep lying playmaker. If you guys did use her player of the month earlier on into the year, you'll know she is very nice as a deep lying playmaker. Yaya Toure caused us a lot of issues to rank yesterday, and it was between the S plus or the S++ tier. And I do not want to spend 3 minutes ranking Yaya Toure again. I just do not want to do that. I'm going to have him in the same tier, S++. We mainly came to the conclusion his stats and playstyles are so disappointing for what you'd expect for someone like a Yaya Toure, but it's just the body type alone, a pinged pass, the bruiser, it's just the Yaya Toure body type, the animations, the AI, it's just Yaya Toure, he's just different, he feels different in game. So as a deep lying playmaker, for me, I wouldn't use him as a holding, I'd rather a deep lying playmaker. I think I have to have him in the S++ tier like I did yesterday. I'd rather him than all of the cards in the S+. Yes, his stats may not be beautiful, his playstyles may not be insane, but it's just Yaya Toure, he's just going to feel, you know, different, if you will. Bruno Guimaraes into the S+ tier. Moises Caicedo, S+ tier as well. A pinged pass intercept. I think a deep lying playmaker for someone like Caicedo, and maybe a Bruno G as well, but by 2 cards that if you played as a holding, it would also work. I'm not too sure how to pronounce this name here. If I'm wrong, I feel like this guy has got an Arsenal tattoo on him. As an Arsenal fan, I love it. I'm pretty sure he's got a tattoo of like the Arsenal cannon on his shoulder, unless it was someone else from Sporting. But his name is, I don't even want to try pronounce, we'll just go with his first name, Morton, all right? No disrespect to him. I'm just awful with names. I'm just actually awful with names. But yeah, I've got him in the S tier. Look, this is probably the cheapest Nangolan gang card we've ever had. 90 plus in every stat, a tiki-taka intercept, it's beautiful. But I mean, it's crazy. This market is absolutely insane. He could honestly even have a shout for S+. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to having him in the S+ tier. But as we fill it out, we'll just have to see where we go. He has got to be regular Anticipate too. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have a regular Anticipate. Okay, that kind of brings me back down to kind of more the S tier, but still, like, what a card, man. What a card. I think he's I guess it is a little bit awkward, because with no Anticipate, you're leaning away from holding, but then he's also not got like a playmaking playstyle plus to use him as a deep lying playmaker, so a little bit awkward in that sense, but still a really nice pickup. I'm going to have him in the S tier. Bo Risa, now she's only 5'5" or 5'6", so she's going to be a Kante type of player. She's going to be a card that you want to use as a deep lying playmaker more than anything. I'm going to have her in the S tier. She's only 10,000 coins, another brilliant steal. Like, you would expect for 10,000 coin cards to be in the A++, but I think you can get some pretty nice use out of them. So I'll say Bo Risa, just like our old friend Morton over here, I'd say they are more S tier than A++. You just have to use them correctly. Like Bo Risa, you'll have to pair with a holding DM, a much taller one at that as well. Philip Billing, I am probably maybe Philip Billing, I think maybe breaks down into the A++. And looking at this, I do want to get Martinez in the A++ as well. I think I'll just rather the cheaper TOTS cards than this Martinez card. Now, as for Philip Billing though, he is a card I want to look at. I've looked at him so much times. I know the amount of playstyles he has, the ridiculous playstyles he has. I think, you know, the stats, I say falling behind. The game is so much more important than just stats now. He's 6'6". Wow, I thought he was 6'4". 6'6" is insane. 6'6" is a deep lying playmaker with an incisive, press-proven, bruises nice, no pinged pass. I honestly think I'd be more than happy to have him in the S tier. He does have an evolution available, which just makes him that much better. If you put him into the evolution, I'd probably say S+ tier. But I'd say this card by itself, I'll say in the S tier. 92 Essien and 92 Makalele. Always used to have issue ranking them as well, but icons, so they feel nicer in game. You know, intercept on Makalele. But yeah, Essien, I'm disappointed with his play styles. Makalele could just have, you know, his stats not the best. Look, but they're still good, they're still S tier, but I don't quite think, well, I'm confident they're not S+ or higher. I'd rather all of the cards in the S+ tier. Team of the season Højbjerg, I'm going to have in the, not the S tier. I think he is more of an A++. I'd rather the other cheaper TOTS cards like Bo Risa and Morton in my opinion. I am going to have him in the A++ tier. Andre Santos, I think is better than Højbjerg, and I think he might just make that break into the S tier. I think he's pretty underrated and intercept a tiki-taka there. If I remember correctly, he may not have an anticipate. Yeah, he doesn't have an anticipate, but as a deep-lying playmaker, tiki-taka or a regular pinged pass, you can deal with it. A deep-lying playmaker, pair him up with a holding DM, you'll be good to go. Locatelli, I'd rather Locatelli to be honest, with a 5-star weak foot, anticipate, long ball, I don't mind it. I'd rather him than a Højbjerg and a Martinez. I'll have him in the S tier. Kobbie Mainoo, S tier. If Man United were to have won the Europa League, then he would have been S+, he would have been probably S++ if United would have won, because it would have been a pretty big boost. I think this Mainoo card, is the stats are a little bit behind, the playstyle pluses are fantastic. This combination of playstyle pluses is absolutely sublime, and it's a massively missed opportunity, because he'd be in probably everyone's team if United did actually go on to win it, right? It's honestly hard to even say he's not S+ even without the upgrade, to be honest. Yeah, really nice card, and he could have been S++ without a doubt if United were to have got the job done. Zakaria, massively disappointing playstyle pluses, so I'll have him in the A++. Although press proven and a bruise is nice, you know, jockey is mid. You would have rather an anticipate, a tiki-taka, a pinged pass, an intercept, in my opinion. Last but not least, lads, is Patrick Vieira. We're going to have him in the S tier. His Thunderstruck is more on the outdated side. Now, guys, one disclaimer before we kind of finish it is, yes, of course, there's this evolution going around where you can put the cards into the evolution. You can give this Mainoo +7 defending, +4 physical. Like, I mean, that's a great card. If you put this evolution on Mainoo, then yeah, he might even jump S++, you know. And then if United won, I mean, he could have had a debate for best in the game. And, you know, I think all of the cards that are max 92, and he's also an evolution for max 93. But say like Santos, Locatelli, Højbjerg, Zakaria, I think even Makalele and Essien, they might all have cards or have evolutions available. Let me just see, because they have to, like, are icons available into it? Can icons? They can, right? So this evolution, guys, once again, we are excluding these evolutions in our rankings of these cards. What I will say though, to kind of make it more simple, is if you wanted or were interested in where I would rank the card in this evolution, and I'm saying this so I don't get a bunch of comments saying, where would you rank Andre Santos in the take a step back evolution? I'm saying this now. If you were to put them into the evolution, I'd rank them in the tier, or maybe 2 above where I ranked the non-evolved cards. So Andre Santos, if you put him in the evolution, I'll say you turn him from an S tier card to an S+. Locatelli, S tier to an S+. Højbjerg and Zakaria, you'll turn them from an A++ to an S tier. I think maybe the exclusion is Patrick Vieira, who I think if you put the evolution on Patrick Vieira, instead of going to the S+, once it's Patrick Vieira, I'd have him in the S++. He's still that step below his foot birthday card, but Patrick Vieira is just that much different, that, you know, he deserves a much bigger jump up if you were to boost him up a little bit. You put him into this evolution, I mean, yeah, that's a great card. He gets a block and a jockey as well. Yeah, like, that's beautiful. Or you can do a pinged pass, it's up to you. I think as a holding DM, you'd probably rather the block as a holding. And that pinged pass is also beautiful. So yeah, the same thing goes, guys. If you were to put Vieira into this evolution, then I would say he would be S++. But if you were to put anyone else that's not named Vieira into the evolution, then I'll just up them a tier. I did make one change before finalizing it, and I did decide I'm going to move Lisandro Martinez back up. I'm going to move Lisandro back to the S tier where we originally put him. I think I would rather him than a Højbjerg and Zakaria. So to recap, best in the game, you got your Rodri, Tanaka, McTominay, Pedri, Vieira, Hullet, and Matuidi. The S++, of course, still some absolutely top tier CDMs, but for me, not quite best in the game. But if you've got an S++ tier CDM, that's more than enough to get those really good finishes in FUT Champs or whatever rank you want to achieve. The S+, you've got some still fantastic cards here: Mainoo, Caicedo, Petri, Zambo, Aggressive, some really nice cards. Maybe primarily lots of these cards in the 50k to 200k range here. Of course, it's not necessarily organized by price with a 90,000 coin SBC in the S++ tier, but of course, if you were to categorize it. And then in the S tier, you've got the cheaper TOTS cards. You've got some cheaper TOTS cards, Morton, Borisa, Locatelli, Andre Santos. You've got some of the more outdated icons, Makelele, Essien, but I think they still just do enough to maybe be in the S tier. I think they're more of a, like, if I was to choose 2 players to go down to the A++, it would probably be Essien and Makelele, but they're lucky because I would rather them than a Højbjerg and Zakaria. Of course, we did move a Martinez up. What really swayed me to do that, the stats I feel like are really disappointing, say 87 dribbling, but you actually look into it, and 97 composure with 93 reactions are really important, and are kind of hidden, if you will. Like, you wouldn't expect 97 and 93 with only 87 face dribbling. I think with him, you've got to be using him as a deep lying playmaker, and yeah, I think he should be an S tier card in that case. Then Højbjerg and Zakaria, I certainly do think are just not as good as the other cards on the list, right? Hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll see you all in the next one.